Hey everyone, welcome to another session of Marketing Shizzle. I am Ed Davidson, and welcome to this one. Every fortnight we come together to listen to an expert on a particular marketing topic. There's a snappy 50-minute presentation, and then we get to grill the person with questions at the end. That's all in a nice, short, sharp 30-minute meeting, and we try and keep it the same for every fortnight. We record the session like this one and send it out to the community for those who can't attend. So this session's a little bit different. We're celebrating 25 Shizzle sessions, so it's good news. So I am gonna host this one, be in the hot seat myself, and give a little bit of a kind of background in terms of where it came from, what's worked well, what hasn't worked so well, and kind of what I've learned from hosting this event and where I want to take it in the future. So that's the plan for this particular fortnight. Andy is kindly gonna kind of take the opportunity of asking questions at the end, maybe grilling me with a few questions, but as usual, drop any questions you've got in the chat, and then we'll kind of go from there.
I've written down some real stinkers for you, Ed, as well.
Oh, perfect. Good old challenging questions. Now, first thing is sharing my screen. There you go. Can everyone see that okay?
Certainly can.
All right. So cool. So in terms of, this is me. I'm Ed Davidson, normally kind of host this. So I'm a fractional CMO or head of marketing and also a kind of growth consultant. I've worked 15 years for companies like the REC and Experian, and now I've been working for myself as a consultant for kind of 4 years now, working across a number of different companies, private equity-backed healthcare company at the moment, and also a couple of prop tech VC-backed companies that are growing as well. So that's me. In terms of the shizzle, the good old shizzle. These were the original people. I think Dave, you on the call? I think Dave might be on the call.
Hello, there
I am. So it was Dave and Alan and myself got about probably kind of over a year ago now, and every fortnight we'd have these very similar sessions. We'd basically just chew the fat on a particular a marketing topic or problem that people are having, and delve into it and have a kind of big discussion about it. I think I found it really helpful, and I hope the other guys did. So in terms of kind of helping to solve particular issues that people were having. So we thought, potentially that we'd expand it out to a wider group. I put my feelers out there for, who else, potentially could be involved and kind of groups that I was involved in. And it's kind of gone from there. So, there's really great ideas coming out of it. We've kept the format, we've kept the name for the moment, and kind of Marketing Shizzle was born in that way. But the people kind of basically asked me why I'm doing this. And there's obviously kind of benefits, but also kind of reasons of giving back a little bit. I suppose I wanted to just explain it a little bit in terms of just inspiration from a few people that have got me thinking about why I should do this and why I want to expand it further. First guy, I think some of you might know him, but Joe Glover here at the Marketing Meetup. So he's pretty local to me. He's just over in Ely way. And when I moved back from Bristol, I met him, and he was just doing something really small in terms of that kind of meetup in Cambridge. He's done so well with it now. I think it's in like 20 or 25 different locations. It's like global. He took it through the pandemic, where he was taking it online, but also interviewing some really kind of big names like kind of Mark Ritson. And I thought that was quite an inspirational story. and how you can have a community, have a group of people. But I think, how you take it in a little bit of a different direction with these kind of short, snappy meetings. And that's how I wanted to take it forward. Second person is a lady called Catherine Strachan. She's given a presentation on one of these meetings, and I met up with her, and she said that one of her mentors that she was working with had kind of challenged her to meet 25, I think it was 25 people, new people every month, right? And I think she was trying to do that face to face. And I thought, most of my work comes from recommendations or referrals on my network. Getting into London every day, especially when you're working remotely, is pretty difficult to do. So it's how that you do that with a remote way, but also engage with people who kind of share their expertise, but you can also build that network. So that was a good kind of challenge, and something that kind of pushed me to do this. And the last one, it's me in 1990 as a choir boy. But I was super shy at that stage, right? And I was, it scared the bejesus out of me doing any form of presentation. It scared me just doing this kind of singing. And I think it was something from my youth to push me to do something, but also I like this particular format in the way that you could give the opportunity for people that maybe not necessarily would present anywhere else, but are a real expert in their field, the opportunity to have the platform to speak. It's short and snappy, it doesn't take up that much of their time, but it gets them thinking about what to focus on, and then gives them the kind of platform to get their expertise out there. So it's often the case that these people may be freelancers, or they're kind of smaller experts in their field. And so I really like that as a particular format. So that's the why. So what's been good? Well, there's good stats in there. We've had 25 sessions. There's been a whole great range of topics and range of people that have been speaking. I've got to have sessions with some of my oldest friends, like Tim Lyons, who's top there, left there. There's about 100 people on the invite. Some people never turn up. Some people turn up regularly. Some people dip and pop in. And there's obviously a whole range of reasons why people can't attend. But since I've been doing it on YouTube and we've been filming it, we've had 30 views normally kind of per video. So the only where I'm really promoting at that moment is the kind of email. So I think people are catching up when they want to on a particular topic. I think what people have really commented on is the format. So they like the short format. There's no waffling. I think the line that somebody said is all killer, no filler. So really kind of focusing on those nuggets of recommendations rather than talking widely about a topic. Also, most of the time here, people have got their cameras on. They're leaning forward. It's not like a sea of people with half the cameras turned off. If people are here, they want to kind of ask questions. So also, I found a bit of a pattern of these invites. I've committed to do it every fortnight. We've done it every fortnight. And that gives the opportunity to people to know that they're going to come every fortnight and have an opportunity to attend within that particular time of the day. And look, time spent and kind of rewards received. I get to listen to great experts. In terms of the benefit to me, it's great content I can put out there as well, associated with my network. But in the same way as it's branding or content marketing, I don't know if there's any direct benefit that I've received of people, particularly working with me, but being able to engage with all these people in terms of recommending experts as well to companies I'm working with or people within my network, I think is really powerful as well. And the final thing is just, I've heard this a number of times. People have said, oh, it's really great because I've just reached out to the speaker, or I've ended up doing business with this person tied to this meeting. That's great because that's what it's for. It's building business relationships, and hopefully that's reciprocal in different ways as well. What's not gone so well? There's always parts that's not gone so well. So again, trying to explain it in quotes. Look, when people decline the invitations on a particular week, normally though it's in the morning just before the event, it's like, oh, it's a bit disheartening. It's like, I'd love for that person to come, or they say, give them a heads up, and they go, oh, sorry, I can't. Just had a new meeting put in the calendar. That's pretty tough. And look, I've got no idea who's going to turn up on the day. I can't force people to turn up on the day. I could do it just with the speaker, but I think sometimes that's a bit kind of good, challenging not to have people asking the questions. Normally, 5 to 8 people, I suppose the best level we've got on here is about right number, because then people can ask the questions as well as being involved as well. Things go wrong from an admin perspective, like Andy on the call here, he kindly hosted a meeting and then the link didn't work, the Zoom link didn't work. So that was painful. Luckily, I managed to sort it out basically from the ski slope to give him access. So that was all good fun. And then sometimes, the fact that you're recording the sessions maybe cannibalizes the people who could be here on the day, because they may be like, wait to watch it again at another time rather than being there and watching on the day. And the final thing, the name. The name has been hilarious because some people love it and some people just talk about the shizzle and kind of nothing else. Some people just, I think, find it a bit flippant, and it was a bit of a kind of throwaway kind of term. And there has been instances that people have actually been offended by it or thought people could be offended by it. I don't want to go specifically about that, but it's just really interesting to see how names of things and how you position things can influence different people, right? So I think it's important to recognize that. So that's where we've got to so far. What's next? So look, there's speakers lined up till the autumn. So people are keen to speak, and that's great. And I've got some real great experts in here. Product marketing people, close to my heart, kind of fractional B2B people as well, channel experts like SEOs as well, and areas of research that are very niche but specific, like jobs to be done, which I think are going to be really excellent as well. So speakers are lined up. I think I've been a little bit guilty of not giving people the heads up of when these sessions are happening, only kind of doing it kind of the week before. So I think giving people that list in advance, I think will be helpful as well. But that's what we've got. That's what we've got next. And I think I encourage you guys, if you see topics that are useful for people, and encourage me to get it out there to make sure that there's enough people attending on the day and asking questions as well. So what's next for the name? So I don't think I was ever we're never happy with the name. It's literally something I scribbled down probably on this pad as part of this session. So I've had a little bit of a kind of evolving process with it. And something that stuck with me when I was working for companies, mainly, I suppose, in-house and very much in the politics of an organization. The worst thing was to do with that backstabbing and taking ideas and not sharing things. The best thing was really when people came together, complimented other people, and shared and genuinely gave people pats on the back of ideas that came forward. And that, to me, was summarized by, I think it's a really UK saying, but just great shout. You'd say good shout or great shout if it was a really good idea. These sessions are basically snappy shouts about a particular topic, and even like giving shout outs to people, the subject matters. I think that's nice as well. So I've given it a name of great shouts, and that's hopefully what I want it to evolve into. And I think that's really kind of positive to the way that people are involved in these meetings and the experts themselves as well. And I kind of thought how we could evolve these meetings, and had great kind of conversations and collaborations with other people that I'm involved with, including Tom, who's on here in terms of the guys at Growth Division, about how we could potentially have an expansion of a particular topic. ABM is a classic example where there's direct outreach, community building, there's ads, there's events, there's all of this stuff tied to that. I've given it the idea of super shouts, potentially a wider topic, and kind of thinking there how we can expand it out to a wider group of people. And kind of last idea is, so I know a lot of founders at different levels, and what's always fascinated me, there's a number of different interviews of founders in terms of, they're struggling at the beginning, they suddenly found excellent degrees of success, whatever they're talking about. Well, I suppose what deeply interests me is their marketing journey and how their marketing has evolved. So when did they start stepping up branding more? How the value prop changed over time? Even what marketing channels worked at the beginning, tapped out, and they had to move to different channels. All about that kind of that marketing scale up kind of growth. So I've got the idea of kind of founder shouts. So this is where I'm kind of playing with how to take it, but certainly appreciate any kind of comments or recommendations and feedback is always great with these particular ideas. I'm sure Andy can grill me on a few questions in a moment. And I'm kind of playing around with my personal brand at the moment and what this concept, kind of great chats and these interviews and conversations on a fortnightly basis kind of mean to me. I think it's great as a personal brand, showcasing a network and how people are involved in that particular network in terms of expertise and how I recommend. So I've got this idea about how I bring great shouts into my personal brand and have dedicated page wider than YouTube of how I take those snippets and those learnings and also showcase these individuals in terms of their expertise and their own as well. So yeah, that is up to 20 minutes, Andy. So I suppose finally, big great shout out to all the people that have done their sessions so far. There's a few people that are on this call that have dedicated some time and given up sessions and their expertise. Massively appreciate it. And hopefully with the people coming up into the autumn, there's more people that can be involved and this community and this group can grow further, all with that snappy amount of time. So I think that's pretty much bang on 20 minutes, Andy. So any
Well done.
questions or recommendations for anyone, then it'd be great to hear.
Well, Ed, let me kick off by saying well done on 25 shows. It's good dedication over the time you've been doing it to pull all of those experts together to give you those snappy 20-minute presentations, which have been really good. And I think I was a few of those references in the quotes there. Certainly, I was the guy stuck with the broken link when you were on the ski slopes. But I've also been involved with conversations outside of the shizzle with speakers that have been really great. So Louisa, who was here a bit earlier, is someone that I've had a good conversation with and have done a podcast with her. So that's been really, really helpful. So well done. But I have got a few questions, and they're not the stinkers I suggested at the start, but hopefully a few to make you think. And I guess the first one is, obviously you've covered quite a lot of topics over those 25 episodes. So I was wondering whether there was anything in those episodes that's you've learned that surprised you about B2B marketing, or that really stands out when you learn something new about the trade that you ply?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think there's my kind of position, I suppose, classic head of marketing. I know bits about every topic, but that potentially can be quite dangerous when you're actually speaking to somebody who's a great expert, right? I think we had a particular specialist on LinkedIn. God, I can't remember his name on the top of my head, but he just gave so much kind of detail in terms of the methodical way he approached those LinkedIn ads, and then he just called out that LinkedIn was thinking about providing the opportunity to promote an individual profile rather than just a company. I had no idea about that, and I wouldn't have done on that particular topic. But it's so insightful for me to know that. So there's just like snippets and nuggets from that, which I think are so useful when you start delving into a new topic. I think as well when there's topics where questions come up for other individuals where they can really put the person kind of on the spot, but then get them kind of thinking as well. I think that's great in that way. In terms of what was interesting about doing one of these sessions every couple of weeks is that, do you run out of topics in the end? Is it like you've covered B2B marketing? Which I suppose kind of scares me a bit in a way. So I think how it evolves, and if you can pull out a particular niche topic from a particular channel or particular angle, and there's enough interest in that and you've got feedback from the community, then you can start delving down on that if there's enough kind of passion and interest in it. Now there's things that run away with, I suppose, AI, and there was a bit AI covered when we did something around kind of customer research, but I think there's topics that naturally come up that need kind of delving into. But I suppose it's sometimes you don't want to jump on the bandwagon when it's just the topic that everyone's talking about, because I'd rather learn about something which is useful, most useful and valuable that I can apply to my clients and people can learn from as well. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you'd be hard pressed to ever run out of subjects, particularly given that there's a kind of 15-minute at a time presentation. There's so much mileage in restricting it and focusing people that you've probably got a lifetime of great shouts to go by the looks of things. And it's interesting to hear you talking about who inspired you to go on this journey and mentioning Joe from the marketing meetup and Catherine, isn't it? Also talking about desire to meet. It's either 25 or it's 40 or even 50 new people a month, which is quite something. But community is one of those terms that's been used a lot, hasn't it, in not just B2B, but B2C marketing as well. What does community mean to you, Ed? And how are you using the principles of building community to help you as in your enterprise?
Yeah, I think it's banded around a lot. And I think, when Joe is when he's kind of doing his presentations, and when I've been on there, when he's been promoting them, there's been hundreds of people on there, right? That's a true community he's dedicated to. In terms of, this about my time, so I spend 3 to 5 hours on it. So it's not that something that I'm really focusing on growing that community where people go, oh, I'd love to attend great shouts, and I'm just involved in it. I suppose what this enables people to do in terms of that community bit, and where the small amount, I think I mentioned, the small amount of time versus being enabling people to be able to speak and to talk. A lot of time people might necessarily not have done this before, or done as much of it before. They're not like a speaker like Mark Ritson, or they're not doing kind of the rounds of those speaking bits. So enable them to be able to have a platform that they can go in and push themselves to speak. I actually think that's really powerful. I think it creates bonds within your network if you're working across clients or working across different people, which actually is stronger than anything else, right? So I think a community that people feel like they've got a badge for great shouts or shizzle. I'm not looking to do that. I suppose what I'm trying to do is build kind of deeper roots with individuals that I work with. Like, we talked about collaborations or growth division guys who talk about collaborations. I saw, Dave event and saw him on his stand there, and kind of reflected back on the shizzle. It just builds those roots and kind of stronger relationships. And I think that's great in terms of this kind of platform allowing it to do that.
Yeah, I think in B2B marketing, a lot of it is down to strength of relationships, and that really helps when you build that network. Does anybody else have any questions for Ed? If not, I can keep him talking for hours. Well, another 4 minutes actually by my clock.
I saw one from Rob just in the chat. Are you considering an occasional in-person meetup, the network, face-to-face? Great chat. Yeah, so I did kind of think about that, especially with the fact that I just need to force myself to get into town, get away from this lovely kind of rural setting, and into London, and bringing people together for a physical meeting. I think when there was the pandemic and people came back to Joe Glover's marketing meetups, there's a real kind of buzz in the room from that. His ethos is all about being a friendly meeting. You're not chucking out business cards. You're trying to help people. You're trying to help the shyest person in the room. I think there's something part of that. I think it's amount of effort you put in and the returns that you get with the community. So organizing an event and a meeting space, putting money behind the bar or doing that, it's another step. I think again, if you're talking about relationships, you're having a drink with somebody, you're socializing with somebody, that builds it even further. But it's a next level commitment. I think as well as that, talking about, we've got like 9 people on this call. If you do all this stuff, you plan for 100 people to come to the room and then 9 people turn up. That wouldn't be great, right? So you've got to have, again, that additional commitment when people are meeting face to face. But, I love the idea, and I'm quite keen to get back in to try and network face to face. I know, Tom kind of mentioned he's doing a few more things face to face and trying to get involved in things in that way. So I think it's a good shout. Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I think
we're here for a collaboration there, Ed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's a great opportunity there to bring different. I know there's a number of agencies on this call as well. So kind of agencies coming together potentially, and even having kind of people speaking, kind of bringing clients in. I think it's a good opportunity there. Yeah, good stuff.
So the future's bright. Maybe we'll see some face-to-face break shouts, which sounds like a really good idea to me. And I guess you're right there. With an in-person event, the workload and the exposure goes up a little bit. So you'll probably be wanting at that stage to think about what's the actual return I get from this. And that's where, as we all know, measuring our marketing output is quite important, isn't it? Especially when it's your own time and your own budget you're needing to spend.
Yeah, exactly right.
On that note, I had a quick question there, Ed. Did you actually have any objectives or targets going into this, to validate whether it was a success or not? And if so, did you hit them?
Yeah, good question. I think I wanted to hit a certain milestones in terms of delivery of these sessions, and I suppose that's not in terms of direct returns per se, because that's super hard. I definitely went through a kind of wobbly phase at the beginning of the year. It's like, is this worth it? And just kind of pushing on. I think the more that you continue to build them and build kind of reps into doing it, I think you get into that position that you don't want to drop it, and so you push on. In terms of number of attendees and stuff like that, I talked about this like threshold of 100 people. But you always got a little bit of churn of that in terms of email addresses that don't work anymore. So obviously people left the company in terms of being recommended, or people not turning up. So I think that's a little bit of a kind of moving feast in terms of that particular objective. In terms of like directly what business I've made from this, I've been with clients, and I think there's a few people on this call in terms of clients that I've worked with and teams that I work with. I think that's really powerful, and I think that's great to return to those relationships. But in terms of return on revenue or return on money, it's pretty hard to quantify. But yeah, love to hear any other kind of thoughts on how you quantify those returns on these kind of groups, certainly.
Well, I think there's definitely a brand building metric there, isn't there, Ed, in terms of awareness of the amazing Ed Davidson and his fractional CMO services. I'm sure there's a whole army of B2B marketers that now know all about who you are and what you do. So hopefully you'll be able to put some numbers against that investment in time at some point. But Ed, it's past, so I'm going to call time on you to be strict with your rules. So well done. That was really interesting, Ed. Thanks for sharing all of your presentation and for answering those questions so candidly.
Great. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot, you guys, for attending. Thanks, Andy, for asking the questions.
My pleasure.
Right, guys. See you again.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Bye.